Hello, welcome to part 5 of my Ninja Turtle retrospective. Now this movie today is actually a television movie. But right now we're going to be doing Turtles Forever, the movie that celebrated 25 years of Ninja Turtles. Ironic, huh? I'm doing the 40th anniversary retrospective and doing the 25th anniversary special. And as you can notice, I own 3 copies of this movie. Yes, I am aware of this, but here's the thing. There are technically 3 versions of this movie. Like, for one, there's the TV cut, which is what I have here. Then there's the extended cut, which I'll get into that a bit more. And the new one, which was released on the new complete series DVD of the show that it was connected to. I don't know. Here's the thing. I love this special. It was a great fun, especially if you're a fan of Ninja Turtles. You know what? Screw it. Let me just stop talking and get right into the movie. The movie begins with the Purple Dragons robbing a warehouse, and not too long after, they get jumped by 4 people we think are the Turtles from this movie. And right after that scene happens, we cut to Splinter watching TV and discovering the Turtles might have been discovered. Which leads to Splinter calling all of his sons to him one by one instead of all together, which is a little weird, but frankly, I don't really care. It's just kind of cool to see them do this as a way to introduce the Turtles to the movie. Anyways, after that happens, the Turtles watch the TV to see what it is, and it looks like them, but they're all confused, seeing as how they've all been home all night. So to get some answers, they all head out to see if they could find any clues as to who they are, or what they are. And thankfully, we don't have to wait too long because the people who capture them end up showing us who they are. And guess what? It's the original Turtles from the 1987 cartoon. How are they here, or why are they here? They don't know. They try to interrogate them, but all they do is make lame jokes and ask for pizza. While they're going through their stuff, they come across a couple canisters of mutagen, which I have no idea why they have these, but hey. And while examining it, a fly gets inside of it and ends up mutating right in front of him, which he ends up getting really interested in and decides to keep it just so he can use it as a weapon to use on his enemies. And with that, he decides to just have the Turtles be killed since to him, right now, they're just worthless. But before they can go through with it, the other Ninja Turtles come in to rescue them, and upon seeing them, they're just as confused as the Purple Dragons are. Oh yeah, by the way, that's what these guys that they're fighting are called. I forgot to mention that. Anyways, not too long after, the original Turtles get set free, which leads to a pretty interesting fight sequence, and a part where Leonardo, I swear, attempts murder. He should be dead! And once that's all done and over with, all 4 Turtles, or I should say 8 Turtles, meet up and actually try to have a conversation about who the hell each of them are. And I'd like to point something out here. Okay, so here's the thing about the original Turtles in this movie. They did not get the old voice actors back. These are all new people, and the reason they couldn't get them back was mostly for union reasons. And you know, screw it. Just for fun, I'm going to show you some comparisons of what the new Turtles sound like compared to the originals. Let's go! Okay, so just a heads up, I'm only going to do the 4 Turtles. So, let's begin. First off, let me show you what Michelangelo sounds like.
That's just ooze! We fight old Bucket Breath over that stuff all the time! Come on, let's annihilate those turkeys!
Now Raphael.
Chumley, if we're not the Turtles, I don't know who is.
Didn't I see you in the Jungle Book?
And now Donatello.
Details. Science isn't all about facts, you know.
The idiot puts his name on a death machine.
And now on to Leonardo.
In fact, we got all kinds of special anti-technodrome gear back home.
I'll cut you down, Master!
Oh yeah, in case you didn't recognize it, the voice of Leonardo in this movie is Dan Green, who is an awesome voice actor, but I feel like they should have gotten someone else, because with the other 3 Turtles, they sound pretty spot on to really fitting, so I don't know, I like the Turtles, it's just Leonardo's voice is the only one I feel like they kind of got lazy with. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the Turtles trying to figure out who each of them are. They don't really figure out anything. Like, the older Turtles go to get pizza, which leads to a really lame detour, but it ends as quickly as it begins. Anyways, once Splinter intervenes, the Turtles finally explain how they got there, and what happened was this. They're having a battle with the Shredder like they usually do. However, this time Donatello is messing with Krang's interdimensional portal, and in doing so they end up in this dimension. And now they have no idea how to get back. The Turtles do eventually find Shredder inside the Technodrome, and once they get there, Shredder sends out his Foot Army along with Bebop and Rocksteady to fight them. It is also again in this movie where Leonardo tries to kill someone. Like here, he stabbed a foot soldier, not realizing it's a robot. Like, what's with Leo in this movie? The fight doesn't last too long anyways. Like Shredder sets his foot soldiers to self-destruct right as they're losing, and then with that he quickly escapes out of all the confusion. It is also around this time that Shredder and Krang realize if there's versions of the Turtles here, would there be versions of them? They find nothing for Krang, however with Shredder, they find one, the Utrom Shredder. I say this because this show technically had 3 Shredders, but in this movie we only see the one. And frankly, I don't really mind, this one was the best in my opinion. Out of excitement for his other self, he brings him over immediately, not realizing 2 things. One, he's not on Earth, and second, he's not exactly a human. Despite this, Shredder and Krang do decide to saw him out and try to revive him just to get some answers. They botch the procedure assuming they accidentally killed him, but the 80s Shredder claiming himself to be the real Shredder wakes him up in a furious rage. The original Shredder and Krang try to tear gas the Utrom Shredder, mostly because they think he's a lunatic that can't be trusted. And as a way to maybe salvage this failed operation, they go to dissect him, which leads to someone breaking in to stop them. And the person that breaks in is Shredder's daughter Karai, who just more or less introduces herself, beats them up, and then takes control. Let me get into this a bit more. Okay, it's around this point in the movie where I would like to mention why I have this Blu-ray. You see, this movie has an extended cut, which is a few minutes longer and actually fills in some plot holes, which honestly makes me feel like you should try and track down an extended cut of the movie just for that. I'll get right more into that right as the video continues and at the end. I bring this up now because, like I said earlier, she just comes in, says her name, beats him up, and then the scene continues onward. Well, in the extended cut, she does explain a bit more as to why she's here and how she found them. This also helps in a later scene in the movie. Well, what I mean is it helps to have the extra context for other parts of the film. You'll see what I mean when I get to those parts. It's also around this time where the Turtles get attacked by the purple dragons again, but this time they have a mutant of their own to fight them with. The thing doesn't come out of nowhere. It was shown earlier in the movie being created by accident. Okay, just a little side note about this scene. Okay, earlier in the show, Splinter doesn't know how to use a cell phone, but by this movie, he knows how to activate the missiles on their turtle vehicle to actually save their lives. I don't know, this is just funny to see the character development for Splinter in terms of how to use technology. Anyways, the fight ends pretty quickly with all the Turtles and Splinter going underground to try and figure out what to do next. But while this happens, Hun chases after them, getting his hands on the mutagen. But while he does this, he accidentally cracks one of them, leading to the mutagen leaking on his hand and having him get turned into a mutant later in the movie. But right before we see what Hun gets mutated into, we see that the Utrom Shredder got a new exoskeleton to move around in. And I'm not gonna lie, I do like the way he looks in this movie compared to the show. I mean, yeah, it's a bit more bulky, but frankly, it makes sense when you quickly learn later that this was technically a retool of one of Krang's old exosuits. We'll see more about this in the climax of the movie. But also, not too long after, we do see that the Utrom Shredder has been upgrading the Technodrome to his liking because, well, okay, this thing was built in the 80s. They gotta upgrade for God's sake. I mean, by the time this movie came out, it was 2009. I mean, how old is all the software they've been using? And also another thing we see him do is I took the mutagen that Shredder was making earlier to create his own mutant army. Yeah, they do make a funny joke about how competent this Shredder is compared to the 80s one later in the movie, which, I'm not gonna lie, that scene did make me laugh when I first saw it. And not too long after this, we do cut to a scene that was removed from the TV version of the movie, which I feel like should have been left in. I'm going to bring this up more when it comes into play later. It is also around this time that the two Donatellos are trying to find a way to the 80s dimension. but they're trying to build one out of a flashlight, which the other Donatello says is really stupid. But right as they're about to get to work, Hun breaks in and we finally get to see what he was mutated into. Which leads into a big battle sequence which leads to the lair getting destroyed again. Okay, again in terms of the show, this is technically the third time their lair was destroyed. So for those of you who are seeing this movie and not realizing that, well, now you know. Anyways, during the ensuing chaos, they do eventually get their interdimensional flashlight to work, sending them back to the 80s dimension. Before they do anything important here, they rescue April from a bunch of really, I can't tell if these are lame or stupid monsters, probably both. And once that's done and over with, they do go back to the lair to regroup. Well, at least the 80s Turtles version of the lair. It is also here where we meet Master Splinter, or at least the 80s version, who, despite how weird this situation is, he welcomes the other Turtles openly, and it's honestly a nice scene. And it's this scene here which makes me wish that last cutout moment I mentioned was left in, because during that moment Raphael makes fun of the 80s Turtles, calling them worthless and not worth having around, and their Splinter scolds him for it. And on this scene here, where the other Splinter is being welcoming toward them, Raph decides to reflect and realize maybe he should have been nicer to them. And with the TV cut, that earlier scene is removed, so this, well, heartwarming moment kind of has no weight to it. It is also here that we learn that Hun kidnapped the other Splinter, which the Shredder decides to use as bait to lure the Turtles to him. Anyways, back in the 80s dimension, the other Turtles do bring us some equipment to fight the Technodrome, but it's mostly junk that the other Turtles see as not worth bringing. It is also around this point that Shredder has actually really upgraded the Technodrome. And we also get to see his new mutant army, which does look pretty darn cool. And also it's around this point where we do see another deleted scene which I wish was left in the movie. It's not really story important, it's just a cool scene of April and Casey trying to fight off the mutant army as best they can while the Turtles try to get help. Like I said, it doesn't really add much, it's just really cool to see, and I wish it was left in just for that. Anyways, after that happens, the Turtles do eventually show up, riding the old vehicles from the old cartoon. Granted, they're not very effective against the army, but I don't know, it's just cool to see these vehicles in the movie. And also, while they're being attacked, we do see two mutants that look like Toka and Razor from the second Ninja Turtle movie. I don't know, I just kind of like all the details and references in this fight. And after they get inside the Technodrome, they get captured almost immediately. And it leads to a really awesome scene where Shredder's trying to find the source of the Ninja Turtles and ends up showing an entire group shot, several in fact, of all the different versions of the Ninja Turtles throughout the years. And before you ask, yes, every version of the Turtles that they show here did exist at some point up in 2009. Except for one that wasn't shown. Let me explain. Okay, so here's the thing with this scene which showed all the different versions of the Ninja Turtles. There's one piece of media that they left out, and I think I know why. You see, around the time this show is being made, the two creators of Ninja Turtles more or less split up, and the one that got to keep the rights made this show. And that one creator hated Next Mutation and the fifth turtle that was introduced, so I feel like that was the reason it was left out. Anyways, after that awesome brief history of the Ninja Turtles, well, visual history anyways, the Shredder does eventually find what he's looking for, and once he does that, he tries to erase all the Turtles, thinking he killed them. But due to some tampering from Karai, they end up escaping, unaware of what happened. After that, the Turtles go on a little drive with Casey and April while getting them up to speed on what's going on, while simultaneously trying to find parts for the flashlight just so they can track down Shredder. Unfortunately, though, whatever Shredder did is now causing the world to cease to exist in a really cool effect, in my opinion. And seeing how their lair was destroyed earlier in the movie, they decided to break into the Purple Dragon's headquarters just to get some technology to hopefully upgrade the flashlight and get away to stop Shredder. And it's here we actually get a payoff to a running gag in the movie where the 80s Raphael kept talking to the audience as if he knew he was in a movie or cartoon. And seeing Hun get angry and snap at him is honestly the funniest part in the whole movie, in my opinion.
Some people just can't handle change.
Why do you keep doing that? Who are you talking to? There's no one there!
Anyways, as the fight continues, their base slowly starts to fade out of existence, including the people in it, which leads to Hun begrudgingly giving them the parts they need to upgrade the flashlight. they do eventually upgrade and track down Shredder, leading to them going to an honestly really cool part of the movie. And if you can't tell where they're literally in the old black and white comic books from 1984. They even meet the turtles from this world. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I love seeing the original black and white turtles in this movie. I don't know, it's just so cool that we have these original designs. The fact when they say they're going back to the beginning, they meant way beginning. And be honest, this is honestly one of my favorite parts of the movie, just for that. And to be honest, I kind of actually want an animated show just with the black and white turtle. Like, do the whole show in black and white. I would love to see that. And frankly, given this new age of animation, how a lot of people are trying new and creative things, I would legit love to see a studio try to do an animated Ninja Turtle show and or movie, all in black and white, based off the original comics. Am I alone on this? Let me know in the comments if you want to see this too. Anyways, while they're here, the old turtles literally proceed to beat the crap out of them, and it's honestly really fun to watch. They do eventually stop once Leonardo mentions the Shredder, and after that they do decide to finally stop and listen to what they have to say. And once everything's calmed down and they're able to explain the situation again, they finally start to cooperate. Well, not entirely. Like, at first they kind of make fun of each other for multiple reasons, all of which legit. And if after that they finally decide to go and fight the Shredder once and for all. Or at least the Utrom Shredder at least. But before that, we do get a pretty fun cameo of the original comic version of the Shredder, who gets taken out incredibly easily.
Face your...
And after that happens, everyone, including Karai and the old Shredder and Crank, do team up together with the Turtles to fight the Utrom Shredder because he is literally wiping out reality. At first, it feels like they take him out easily, but then he grows giant. Okay, so like I said earlier in the video, this new exosuit for Shredder was built off one of Krang's old bodies, and here it really shows because in the old cartoon, Krang could grow giant. He could turn his hands into other weapons, and the Shredder's new suit can do that, and I honestly love that attention to detail. Even Krang grows giant trying to fight him. Granted, he gets one-shotted, but I don't know. I love how with this movie, you can tell the people making it are having so much fun combining the old with the new. Eventually, during the fight, the Shredder does get his hands on the old turtles and goes to kill them just to wipe out everything, which leads to another deleted scene I wish was left in the movie. It's pretty much where he actually stops and thinks for a second, wondering, is murdering everything worth it? But then quickly going back to saying, nah, I'll just continue to kill everyone anyways. I don't know, I feel like him stopping to think about it makes him feel more, I don't know, relatable. And the Shredder does eventually get defeated by Bebop and Rocksteady, and the way they do it is honestly fun. They just plug in the death ray on the Technodrome, which leads him getting incinerated. I don't know, the idea of the two dumbest characters in the movie saving the day is just funny to me. And with that, the movie comes to an end with both sides of the turtles saying their goodbyes and everyone getting sent home. And before they do it, they both say their catchphrases, which I think was nice. And when the movie ends, it actually cuts to a live-action segment, which I think is supposed to represent the creators of the Ninja Turtles going out for pizza while they're in the middle of writing the first issue of the comic book. I honestly love the way this ended. It felt like a beautiful way to end 25 years. And with that, that concludes my video on Turtles Forever. And if you can't already tell, I really love this movie. It's just fun. If you're a Ninja Turtle fan who grew up with, this show, the original show, and even knew a bunch of, background details or even noticed them, you're going to have a good time with this movie. I will admit, this is not a movie you just jump into. You have to see this show and a bit of the original cartoon in order to fully enjoy it. Okay, now I'm going to get into why I own 3 different versions of this movie. Let me explain the situation. So, they released the movie on DVD. It was okay for the time, but the problem is, it's the TV cut, and the movie's zoomed out, and it looks weird when you watch it on a widescreen TV. So, yeah. And then, last year, they released the entire show in its entirety in this complete box set, which I am happy to own, but I don't know, most of the episodes are kind of blurry, and the movie is debatably worse than this because, yeah, the formatting's corrected, but the problem is the whole movie's kind of motion blurred, and the last few minutes are cut out. So, but unfortunately, if you want to watch the extended cut, piracy's your only option. Unfortunately, like this movie's not on streaming, and yeah, these DVDs aren't that good. So, I'm sorry. It's just how it is, unfortunately. Now that we've discussed one of my favorite Ninja Turtle movies, we're about to go into two movies that I am not very fond of and haven't seen in years. I am not excited for this at all.